So the next thing we're going to do, and again, this is in your exercise, in order to run fire behavior, we're going to do this through our playground, is what we call it. You can also get to it through the cycle, which would be model fire behavior. Okay. So in this case, I'm going to show you just one example, which is how to do your desired prescription parameters. Okay. And I give you those in the exercise. The low end of the prescription and the high end of the prescription are kind of up to you to do. All right. And this is actually, this is an optional part of the exercise. This is actually exercise 2. But I want to just walk it through, and that way, if you want to mess with it, you can. So to run the model here, we're going to do landscape fire behavior, which is basic. Okay. And I'm going to create my run. I'm going to select my landscape, which again is our Cyrus. And remember, we have to pick the one that we changed. So it's the SH5 GR2 landscape. And then I basically walk through my inputs. So in this case, for the desired prescription parameters, we have a range of wind speed, but in this case, I'm going to use 7 for the wind, and you have to pick a wind direction. Okay, you can only pick one. In behave, you are able to pick multiple wind speeds or multiple fuel moistures, right? In this case, you can only pick one set. So you have to run multiple model runs in order to look at the variation. Okay, so wind speed, I'm just going to stick with 270, which is a straight west wind, and I'm going to recommend you guys do the same. Okay, so use a 270 wind direction, just to keep it simple. And then your fuel moistures are the only other thing that's required. These other 2 parts, I'm not going to talk about crown fire, and I'm not going to talk about fuel moisture conditioning. Those are defaults, just accept the defaults. Okay, don't change those things. The only things I want you guys inputting are wind speed and fuel moisture. Okay, that's it. So in this case, we're going to put in 1 hour, and you have to fill all of these in. I'm going to use 7 for my 1 hour. I'm going to use 10 for my 10 hours. I'm using 13 for my hundreds. I'm using 100 for the herbaceous, and I'm using 120 for the woody. Okay, and we can talk later about how we get these numbers, but it goes back to a little bit about what Loen talked about this morning. Okay, I'm going to not worry about fuel moisture and conditioning. I'm going to give this a name. A name is very important, like I said. In this case, I'm calling it CyrusRX 20, if I can type 14, and this is desired. Okay, these are my desired. This is the middle part of my prescription. I've got low, desired, and high. Okay, this is desired, and I'm going to hit run. Okay, now I've already run this because I want to show you the outputs really quick. So I set up my run. I'm going to hit run. It'll show up in my workspace when it's done. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to go find it because it's already done in here. Whoops. And model output. So here it is, desired. This is the desired run. So this is using those prescription parameters, and I want to look at it on the map. So this is our behave run on a map. It's just what I was talking about at the very beginning. I've added my numbers. In this case, I'm going to add my burn unit boundary so I get oriented to where I am. And you have to do that every time. It's kind of a pain. Like I said, hopefully we'll have a bookmark one of these days. Okay, and there is my burn unit boundary. Now it's that behave run on a map. So now I can look at, I've got flame lengths, right? In this case, I'm looking at flame lengths. I could turn flame lengths off, and I could turn on rate of spread. Okay, I could use the identify tool like I did earlier and say, well, what is this pixel? Is this yellow or orange? I can't tell. Well, in this case, it's flame length of 9. In this case, it has a decimal, which we don't like, but it does have a decimal. Don't worry about a decimal. It's 9 feet. Its rate of spread is 26 chains per hour. It's got fire line intensity and heat per unit area. Okay. Typically, we look at flame length and rate of spread. Those are kind of the biggies. It'll also tell you what your inputs were, your 1 hour, 10 hour, and 100 hour. So if you're going to run the high end of your prescription, the things you're going to change are, you might change your wind speed. Maybe you have a faster wind. Maybe you don't. Maybe it's the same wind speed, but you've got much lower fuel moistures. That's going to change your fire behavior. Okay. Remember, we have that grass, that GR model in there, which has to have that live fuel moisture in there. Okay. So that's how you do this. You do these different runs with your different inputs from your prescription. And ultimately, you could go back and run another low. You could run a high, and you'd have all 3. So in my workspace, if I go back to, and I've already done this, of course, back to Julia Childs here and model outputs, I've got, you can see here, I've got low right here, desired here, and high here. Okay, so I want to look them all three next to each other on the map because I'm curious about what these look like side by side. So in the cycle, I'm going to go to, this time I'm going to go to strategic planning. This is an optional part of your exercise. If you don't get to this, don't worry about it. I want to show you that you can do it though. And I'm picking, the model I used was landscape fire behavior. The model output I want to look at is my CyrusRX. Like I said, knowing what you name these is important. I want to look at low. And once I pick one, it knows the other runs I did because it's the same landscape. It's in the same spatial part of the map. So it already knows. It picked these others that I also ran there. So I want desired and I want high. Now I get to look at them all next to each other. And I can look at all the inputs down here. I use different wind speeds for each, and I use different fuel moistures for each. And you can see I'm looking at flame length right now. You can also turn on your unit boundary just to get oriented again. That'll pop up here in the little thumbnail. Okay, so you can see the low end and the high end are very different from each other, very different. So that, you know, that's going to tell me something when I go to write my prescription and am I meeting my objectives, all of those things. You can view this thing on the map. If you click view on map, it'll take you to that full-size map. And now I can switch between these and have the whole map in the image. So there's my low, there's my desired, and there's my high. And now I can look around, I can zoom out, I can use the swipey tool. I can look at the, you know, I can look at that base map with labels. I can do a lot of these things now to start really learning about how this fire behavior is impacting my landscape. Oh, Deb has a question. She's right here in the room.
So can you create a report that shows those comparisons side by side?
That's a great question. Deb asked, can you create a report that then shows me the outputs for each of these three? And the answer, I'm sad to tell you, is no, right now. It's actually, we're developing this over the winter. We hope to have this done for first or early part of the year. So we got this far and then we haven't gotten any further. So we're going to have reports for these eventually. You can run them by hand in the workspace, just like I showed you. So you can get a fuels report, but you can also get a fire behavior report. You go into your workspace, you go to your folder, and you go to your model output. I can click on my desired, I can request a report, and it'll give me a model run report. You'll get the same breakdown, but it'll show you flame lengths and rates of spread and things like that. Okay, I have to stop because I want you to start working on your exercise.